One man's joke is another man's insult. We live in a deeply divided culture where people have never been more prone to having their feelings hurt. That makes it a lot harder than it should be to talk about a comedy like Konosuba, which works as a parody of a traditional RPG adventuring party. If you've watched the show at all, you probably either love it or hate it. If you haven't seen the show, you might be wondering just what you're getting yourself into. With its third season just around the corner, that's what I'm here to help you figure out. Are you going to find Konosuba to be the anime equivalent of watching the latest special from Dave Chappelle? Or is this one of those corny knock-knock joke books you might have bought at a local school fair? I've got no interest in telling you whether you should find Konosuba funny or not. Instead, I'm going to focus on giving you a taste of what the show is about, so you can make up your own mind. And if you've seen Konosuba Season 1 and are here for fun, feel free to tell me what your favorite thing about the show is in the comments below. With that out of the way, let's get this started. To get things going, I think we should start by talking about what Konosuba essentially is. Picture this. You're a young guy, your name is Kazuma. You're not incredibly socially apt with other people, and you spend most of your time in your room watching anime, playing video games, that kind of thing. One day a new MMO is about to come out, you're super hyped, there's a sale on it at a store with a bonus exclusive item that you really want, so you actually go out into the real world after 3 days of gaming straight, and you're like, yeah, I'm gonna get it. You go, you pick it up, you're happy, you're on your way home. But then you see this girl from your class walking down the street, and you see what you think is a tractor trailer about to run her over. Frantic to save the girl, because of course you are, you want to be a hero, you actually jump out in front of her trying to save her life. And then you die. Except you died totally, utterly, and completely in vain for no reason whatsoever. And everybody has laughed at you. This is what you are informed by the goddess, who is supposed to help you guide your soul into its next life. This goddess, Aqua, informs you that the girl was never in any danger, and that you didn't die by getting run over by something, you died by having a heart attack because you were afraid you were going to get run over by something. And everyone, including your own parents, laughed at your death. She then tells you that there is a world you could hypothetically go to where you could actually become a hero and help slay a demon lord, and you're in on that idea. She's then getting very impatient with you though, and telling you to hurry up and pick an item that you will take into this world with you, while continuing to mock you for the exploits of your past life. So, when she keeps doing this to you, and she's being a complete snotty little bitch, you do what any annoyed teenage boy is going to do in this situation. You look at the girl, and like the true Pokemon trainer you are, you go, I choose you! And in 2 seconds, Aqua is crying and screaming on the ground as she is lifted into the air with you, and you are both flung into your, not just you, but her too, new life. 3 to 1, whoop! And once you get there, you discover, oh crap, I never got a magical item because you chose the useless goddess, or Kazuma did. And you end up picking up 2 new party members as the story progresses, one of whom is a mage that only wants to ever use one spell, and one of which is a knight who is constantly obsessed with the idea of being kidnapped by villains and sexually tortured. Now that we've got the 411 on what the basic lead-in for the show is, we should really talk about the characters, because the 4 main characters of Konosuba are the heart and soul of the show. If you like these characters, you will like this show. If you do not like these characters, you will not like this show. It is really that simple. So, starting off, we have our leading man, Kazuma. I've told you a bit about his background, but in essence, what you need to know is that when he enters this game world, he's totally, utterly, completely, 100% average. He's Joe Average. He is you or me or Sally down the street. And he doesn't really have anything specific or unique about him, because he didn't really pick anything up that would improve his stats or anything else. He has 2 things that are good. He has good intelligence and he has good luck. That's about it. The other 3 members of the party, Aqua, who is a healer and who is the goddess we talked about earlier, Megumin, who is a mage, and Darkness, who is a crusader or a knight, are his 3 other party members, and each of them specializes in something and actually has a full active class. Aqua is an archpriest, Megumin is an archmage, and Darkness is a crusader. As I pointed out earlier, each of them has a specific series of flaws. Aqua is extremely self-centered, continues to view herself as a goddess even though she technically doesn't have all of her powers or status in this world, constantly expects people to worship her as she helps them in any way, shape, or form, and is generally very petty and vindictive. Megumin is a mage. She is a competent mage in that she is very good at the magic she uses. Unfortunately, she is very focused on a single spell called Explosion, and every time she uses that spell, she literally collapses to the ground and cannot move for a series of time, and she can only cast the spell, generally speaking, once per day. Darkness is a knight. She has the worst aim conceivable in the entire game. She cannot hit the broadside of a barn, but she is an incredibly powerful defensive unit. That would be all good and fine and might still be somewhat usable, except that she has a masochism kink and constantly wants the enemy to do unspeakable sexual things to her. And this is used for massive comedic value. This is the character I personally found the hardest to really connect with of the group. I actually really like the other 3 because I love shades of gray kind of characters who have very blurred morality. So, I mean, from that aspect, Konosuba was a win for me right away, but of all the characters, Darkness is the hardest. I'm not somebody who's like crying and screaming from the rafters that her sexualization is an insult to women or anything stupid like that. I just find her generally annoying, which sucks because her backstory is actually kind of interesting, but it is what it is. The next thing to really think about with Konosuba is the fact that this is not a straightforward isekai with RPG stuff and you're going in and you're going to fight the bad guy and that's it. That's not really what the crux and the core of this show is actually about. This show is about taking RPG tropes and making them go upside down and screwing around with them. It's about either comedy, satire, or deconstruction of these ideas. As you probably saw very clearly from the way I was describing the characters a few minutes ago. So you have that aspect, and you have like situations where there's one part where they're fighting this knight who can take his head off and he's on a horse and everything. And Megumin has been going to his castle and she has been practicing her explosion on his castle every day. And he actually comes to the town and he is like, "Why are you doing this to me? Like, leave me alone." And you're like, oh crap, everything's gonna go horribly wrong. But he goes away and then eventually comes back because we find out afterward that she didn't listen to him and she just kept doing it. She didn't care. Oh, I need to practice my spell. And then they have to like fight this guy because he's like, I'm done with this. And like, you have to see what will happen to them and everything, but like, they actually end up making their own problem in that sense. You also see a lot of situations where they'll go on a quest and they'll solve something, but they'll mess something up during it so that they end up having to pay the town or other things for the things that they've fucked up, and that can be really hilarious. The other kind of humor that is very prevalent in Konosuba is humor that is of some form of a sexual nature, and this is where I think that a lot of people will either find the show to be a hit or a miss, because I know some people will find that kind of stuff instantly funny. I mean, some people will find that to be like almost the equivalent of like a fart joke or toilet humor or anything stupid like that. Some people are going to be neutral and just be like, if it's funny, it's funny. If it's not, it's not. And then some people are going to be on a puritanical holy outrage, thinking that this is like the height of misogyny and all this other crap, which to me is an absolute load of crap, because the thing is, this kind of humor is used in Konosuba, but it's used just as much to make fun of Kazuma as it is toward any of the female leads. This is equal opportunity comedic use, and I think that's really important to get across. The next thing we need to talk about, of course, is structure and pacing, how the show is put together and everything, and I think they did a pretty good job. They take their time slowly introducing the characters. You get Kazuma and Aqua from episode 1, and then Megumin joins, and then you eventually get Darkness. And you slowly get to see the evolution of the characters and how their interactions and their personalities and all that kind of gel together. There is a section of the story that seems to jump around a bit more in the middle, where around, I think it's episode 6 or 7 of season 1, we get this character introduced named Wiz, and she kind of just comes out of nowhere. She's actually a pretty cool side character, and I super like her, so I wish we'd actually gotten to see what happened to actually get her into the story. But that said, I'm very glad that she's there because I found her really funny and I really liked her character. She's not quite as nuts as the other characters are. She's actually more of a balancing figure. But they do that with a twist, just like they do with everything else, because Wiz, it turns out, is a lich, which is hilarious. Because of all the characters there, she's probably the biggest sweetie of the entire group. I think that the show does a pretty good job of slowly integrating the characters together and showing them just going on their day-to-day adventures and showing the various ways that they all connect with each other and stuff, which is pretty neat. I don't necessarily think that Konosuba has the most structured or functioning plot and structure of any show I've watched, but I think that it's slightly episodic and slightly growth-based nature actually work together to give the show a solid foundation. And what I mean when I say that is, you've got certain aspects where it's like flavor of the week, where they're going on a specific quest and they're doing specific things, and it doesn't strictly or necessarily always have something to do with what has happened in the last episode. And it can be kind of a monster of the week kind of feel. But you also have situations where either a story does carry over and it actually holds for a few episodes, or aspects that have happened to the characters in previous episodes are referenced, showing that while the setup of the actual episodes and their plots can be episodic, aspects of character development carry over. I think that's a smart and interesting design for something like this, since this is intended to be a comedy. All things said, I think that Konosuba is a really fun and really interesting take on looking at all of these tropes and ideas and messing around with them. I think that it works really well as a comedic piece, and I think that it actually works as a fun and solid isekai, provided you understand the kind of characters and situation you're going to find yourself in here, in comparison to what you might be looking for from something that takes itself a lot more seriously. I think that this really humanizes the kinds of people that are in the story, rather than relying on more like traditional archetypes and tropes that are meant to build a character up. Kind of like the distinction between Superman and Batman, but if Batman was a lot more silly and wacky, maybe more Deadpool or something. Like the idea being that instead of dealing with people at their best, we instead have a, as I've said before, funny but flawed cast who are going about and doing their thing and we're watching them. Kind of like an anime isekai version of like a sitcom or something. All in all, I would highly recommend that anyone check out Konosuba, provided of course that they are aware of the kind of humor and show that it is, and that they're interested in seeing whether or not it would be for them. As for my own personal rating though, I'm going to give Konosuba Season 1 4 out of 5 flowers. I really had a great time with this, and I'm looking forward to watching Season 2, which I really need to get on to because I'm supposed to cover Season 3 on here next week. Anyway, I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a great day. Bye!